Can you hear me?
Hi, em Mai hả? Yes, I can hear you. It must be so late where you are, no?
Yes, I kind of took a nap and then after this.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, we're gonna get started shortly. So let me know. So how were you able to log in? Did you get an email invitation, or how did you log in?
I opened my Gmail and then it just popped up.
You opened your Gmail?
Yes,
Oh, okay. All right. So you opened your Gmail, and then this thing just popped up, and then you are able to
yes,
log in.
yes. Because I
Oh,
normally use Hangout to chat with friends, so it's
okay.
just pop up as a window to chat.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, I think we're just gonna wait for 1 or 2 more minutes so a few more people can join, and then we'll get started.
Okay.
But how did you get? Okay, let me wait here to see.
Is this a special feature of Hangout? Because it's
Yeah, it is a special feature of Hangout because it's actually being broadcasted as well. So it's called Hangout on Air, and other people can like broadcast. Let me. Um, Okay, let me go ahead and see if anybody else has problem logging in. Then we can get started. Okay, one more. I think one more person's trying to join, so we'll just give him 1 second here. Okay, fantastic. Okay. I think 2 more people, but I hope they're not having any problem joining. Hi V, are you there? Let me see. Okay. All right. Go ahead and do this. Ping.
So
Okay. We'll just go ahead and get started first. I think the rest will join in a few minutes. Fantastic. Oh, let me share screen so you can see my screen.
So normally they will click on the link that you post on our group, right? And
Yeah.
that link will be.
Okay. So thank you everybody for joining. So today discussion, my name is Lily, and today discussion we're going to talk about the art of communications. This is a very fascinating subject, and it's a subject for me, even at this age, I continuously try to learn every day in and day out, because it's actually really important for you to master the art of the art of communication in order for you to do really well at your job, and in order for you to build strong, solid relationship. So today it's going to be a very fun exercise. I invite you to join in at any time. We're going to go through a few cases, and you can share your feedback, and we're going to actually essentially brainstorm together. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen, and then we jump right into the case. Let me open up my second screen. Okay, so let me go ahead and think. Okay, so let me go ahead and share with you my slides. Okay, so actually, for the art of communication, the way you should think about this is that especially when you're building out new communications with people, it's a very fragile relationship. It's kind of like, for me, it's kind of like a clockwork. Mike, could you just put yourself on mute for a second? And when you want to talk, you just unmute yourself. Otherwise, it's a background. Thank you, so for me, right, relationships with human beings is essentially like this. It's a cobweb. It's very, very fragile, especially when you meet somebody for the first time. They don't know anything about you, and they're trying to build a relationship with you. And so it's in the beginning stages, it's very thin. It could break at any time. So the way that you communicate to someone, you have to be extremely thoughtful. So this is a quotation by Dale Carnegie, a very famous person, in the US, and he written this quotation in his book more than 70, 80 years ago. He said that you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get to other people to be interested in you. Okay, so this is actually a line that I myself live and breathe. I really believe in this quotation as well. And, and for me, coming back to when in communication, the art is actually, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? So you need to listen more, and you need to be genuinely interested in another person. You need to be interested in another person in order, for you to build a relationship. So the art, this is something, this quotation, I hope that you'll remember, because for me, it's something that that is a foundation of how I communicate to other people. Yeah. So here we have a very fragile relationship in the beginning, but human beings have done fantastic things. And if you take a look at this picture next here, this is in Peru, right? This is ancient temples built on top of a mountain. Like, for so long, people didn't even know we are capable of doing such amazing feat. And the reason why we're able to do this feat is because we trust each other and we work together. And all this, come back to having a very strong foundation. And if you take a look at the next picture as well, right? In the modern days, we are able to build bridges across ocean. So you can think of communication as well as, like, as building the bridge into as building the bridge into building relationships with other people. So if you have good communication techniques, respectful communication techniques, you can do fantastic things, and people will always like you and respect you. So this is the foundation of the talk. I don't just want to give you techniques, techniques on like on how to just, convince people to do what you want them to do, like at any cost, try and trick them. That's not the style, right? The style essentially is to be clearly communicate how you feel and respectfully listen to their opinion. So let's move into the first example. Okay, so here we have an example that you have already done the homework, and it's called making a request, right? In making a request, right, the first thing that I want you to think about is, and the example that I give you is making a request. Like, so for example, kind of know me and you have a job interview and you just found a job online and you're applying for the job and you really want me to review the job description and review your resume. So you email me and you're asking me for help, right? So asking for help is a type of making a request. You will make a request every day, right? At work, you're asking requests, you're working with your colleagues, you're asking for their help, you're asking for their cooperation. In school, you're working with your team members, you're asking requests every single day, many requests. So how are you going to be able to go about it in a way that that essentially people will want to work with you? So the first thing you want to do here is I want to talk about highlight the one thing that you like about the person. So in the email that you write to the person, it should not be about you. You shouldn't open out like, oh, I'm the best person or anything like that. It should be about the other person, right? So you highlight one thing you like about the person, then you make the request, right? And in making the request, you show respect through preparation. You show respect through preparation. And I'm going to explain what this means a little bit. Then you explain it's important to you, and you explain the impact if you get the help, and you highlight any urgency. So it's very clear. Okay, if you're asking somebody for help, it needs to be clear so they know how to help you. All right, and then lastly, you express thanks and you leave an option for them to say no, because sometimes they're busy. You leave an option and you offer to help in return. Okay, so this framework is very easy. I'm going to be, talking a little bit more, and then I'll open it up for discussion. So if we take an example here, I actually type this out for you, making a request. Okay, so if I were to write to, somebody like and ask for help, the first sentence I would say is this: Hi, chị Lily, I find your work in helping young professionals to be very helpful. Thank you for taking the time. Right? So it's about them. You write one sentence to express what you know about them. Then you write the second sentence. This is where you make the request. You show the respect, right? Make the request. So essentially it's like this. So by way of introduction, I'm a third year student, right? Third year student at NTU, I'm a third year student at wherever. I'm applying for a job at Amazon because I believe e-commerce saves people time and provide consumer with more choices, right? So here is that I'm showing, so I'm still making the request, right? I'm applying for a job at Amazon and I'm explaining a little bit for them to understand why I'm doing this job. Remember, right? When you talk to someone, you first need to explain the why before you go into the what. So here I'm explaining to her that, look, I'm applying for Amazon because this is my passion, because I think e-commerce is so cool, and I think e-commerce can save people. So you explain to this person that, oh, it's not just because I want to, just apply for whatever. I don't really know what I'm doing. Like, if you show people that there's thinking behind, like your ideas and your passions and your belief, they're much more likely to help you. Okay, so then you show that you have done, so you show respect through preparation. So the next sentence I talk about is, I have read your writing and follow your suggestions on how to write a CV, right? So then here I'm showing the person, look, I'm actually already done the homework for you, right? So so they're much more likely to help you. Okay, and then you explain the impact. The next sentence I talk about is, I seek your help to review the CV. Your support can help me in the long term, as it will help me to structure my thoughts, right? So I'm explaining to her that, look, this is actually going to have a long-term impact on my thinking process, you know, so it's very important to me, right? So I'm explaining the impact. And then I highlight any urgency, because, you know, she's busy. She think, oh, you know, maybe I can do this 2 weekends from now. You know, people are really busy. If it's urgent, you need to let them know, right? To say the application deadline is November 15th. So it's very clear, right? So when you read this part, it's only a few sentences, but you know what? It took me 15 minutes to write these like 4 sentences. And it took me like 3 edits to make it shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Actually, before it was like twice the length. You need to make it as short as possible. You need to give clear instruction. Okay? When you're asking for help, you need to make it easy as possible for the other person to help you. Right? So let me give you for example, right? If somebody is like, say, you know, want to apply to your university that you already gone to, and they asking you for help, right? And they've already demonstrated, look, I know what your university does. I've already done all this homework. I've already read all these books. I've already written all this. I just need your help a little bit in reviewing my resume. You know, then they're much more likely to help you. But if you're much more likely to help them. But if they're coming in and they say, oh, I don't even know anything about this school, can you help me? Right? You're not really going to comply. So the next part is the last part, which is express thanks and leave them an option to say no and offer to help in return. So here you want to talk about, you know, thank you so much for your help. If this is not convenient time, please don't worry about it. You have to give them an option to say no, right? Because you're asking for help. And when you come to, and then you offer help in return. And when you come to Saigon, I'm happy to invite you to lunch and show you around. Right? So it's a very simple process. I'm going to take a pause here, and I'm going to open it up for discussion to see, you know, if people has any questions on this. Okay. So let me stop sharing. Alrighty, fantastic. Okay. So hi. Can you let me know who's going? Viha? Is that
Yeah.
Vivi? Fantastic.
Yes, my name is V.
Thank you for joining. So you know, I just walked you through the sharing information on this part. I'm wondering if you have any questions, and in communicating to, and like in asking requests, because every day, right, we ask our boss for a request, we asking our colleagues for help or for coordination, we're asking our classmates, right, we're asking all the time requests. So are you currently having any challenges in asking for people for help, and how do you normally do about it? I want to hear a little bit more about your feedback.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me, G? Okay.
Yes.
Currently I don't have any like request, but I always meet a difficulty when I have people reject my. Sometimes I ask them, can you help me? But then they reject my want, and at that time I don't know what can I do. What can I say next time? Well, if I ask the interviewer, can you tell me what I have done wrong in the interview? And they say, oh no, nothing wrong. And then I don't know what to ask next. Thing like that, I don't know what to carry on when they reject us.
Okay. Well, I think we're gonna go over the topic of like how to say no and how to give rejections in a little bit, but specifically we're still on the topic of just asking for requests, like making a request, right? Like asking for help. Like, can you give me a ride, or can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Normally, do you have any problems?
Sorry, G, I cannot hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah, I cannot hear you clearly. It's
Oh, I
like going
see.
up and down.
Oh, I see. Maya, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
You can. Okay. So I think it's just your
Maybe
internet
because
connection.
I'm sorry.
The voice
No
and
Let me
worries.
the
try.
may not go together, but I can hear pretty well.
Okay. No worries. Okay. So Maya, do you have any questions on making requests?
Um, I think this guy is very good, but it is a little like too formal. Do you use that like in every case, or is there any exceptions when you have some kind of simplified model, like simplified structures? Because if you, for example, if you work with someone for a long time, or maybe not the first time that you make a request with them and they kind of know you, and so if every time we highlight something we like about them and then like repeat the whole process, will that be a little too formal?
That's a great question. So essentially, first, right, if somebody you already know, you might not need to highlight one thing you like about the person, but it's still good to chit chat a little bit, right? To show something that you like, right? Say like, because I work with colleagues all the time, and like say I work with the finance team, and I work with them all the time, but it's still like my opening line could be, hey, I have a question to ask you. I'm seeking your deep expertise or like something like that. That's fine as an opening line. Then when you make the request, you also want to essentially give as much as background as possible because you're asking for help, right? So if you're like asking the finance team to like say your client, they're making a late payment, right? And so you're asking the finance team to help the client to make the payment. So then you need to give the finance team as much as information as possible, right? So then that is essentially showing respect through preparation. So here you say, look, I have this client here, they're late, 5 days late in paying, and this is their bank account, and they want to know how they can pay now, and like, can we not charge them extra? Like you have to write it out really clearly so that the other person know exactly what you're looking for, right? Because if you're just asking for help, like, oh, I have this client, he's late, can you help them? They're not going to know where to begin, okay? And then here you can also explain the impact. What that means is that explain the impact and highlight any urgency. In that case, you might want to say like, well, this is actually really important to the client, and if we don't help them, right, they might cancel the contract. Things like that. You need to explain to them what the consequences would be if you don't take the action. Okay, and then of course the last thing is express thanks. But in this case, a colleague, so they don't really have an option to say no to you in this sense because that's their job in finance. But I mean, sometimes you do ask for help that's not really in their job description. That you need to, to be polite, and then and then you don't have to offer for help, but you can say, yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Okay. So does that help to answer your question a bit more?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so in that case, I'm gonna go next. Okay, so in that case, I'm gonna go next to the next topic, and the next topic is one of my favorite topic, which is essentially how do you share feedback? Okay, now think of feedback as a very simple thing. Think of it this way. You're working with people, you have conflicts. Other people think one way, you think one way, right? They're not doing what they said they would, and you want them to do what you want, clearly, right? But how do you get them to do what you want? Very difficult, not easy job. Yeah. And so in this case, what we need to think about in giving feedback is essentially approach it with a very open mind. Here, let me go into this and share with you. Okay, so this is giving feedback. You can see my screen, yeah? You can see the slides, yeah?
Can see.
Okay, great. So for giving feedback, you can think of this as you're working with somebody and the relationship is at risk. They're standing on a cliff. You need to be very careful because you need to work with this person. And if you don't communicate very clearly with this person, you know, the person, the relationship just fall off the cliff and you will never get the relationship back and you'll never get what you want, right? So in every day, we always run into conflict. Like, maybe we have a brother or sister, they want to take the car today and you want to drive the car, and then there's always conflict, right? So how are you going to be able to negotiate the conflict and reach an agreement? This essentially is what this discussion is about. And I'm going to also walk you through quite a formal process, right? This process is formal because it's for complex situation, but if it's a smaller situation, you can simplify it as you need to. Okay, so for me, giving feedback, first of all, you need to start with a mindset. Okay, let me see here. So you need to start with a mindset. Sorry. So the mindset when you go into the feedback is you want to reach a desirable outcome. And you're not here to yell at the person. You're not here to take in anything personal. So let me give you an example. In this case, the case study that we did is about, say, you're in school, okay, or you're working. Doesn't matter. You're in school or you're working, and you're working on a project, and the project has 4 people, right? But one person is not doing their job. Let's just say the project is about, you're designing some fashion clothing, yeah, and your job is to do the design part, which is the making the clothes part. The other person's job, let's just say their job is to interview people to get feedback, right? To interview people and ask, oh, what kind of clothes do you want? Okay, so that's their job, but they haven't done much work and they're falling behind. Okay, so then you're going to be missing. If at this rate, in the next few days, the project is going to fail because you don't even know what the users want. How are you going to make the clothes? Right? So you need to have a discussion with the person. Now, when you're coming in, you are very upset because you want to pass this class or you want to do this project well, and the other person isn't doing this, so you're really upset at this person, right? So you want to yell at the person, you want to like tell them that they're so slow, that that they're not a very good person. But remember, when you first give feedback, you need to have a mindset that you're here to be reaching a desirable outcome, which is, what is the outcome? You want a person to do work, right? You're not here to make the person feel bad. You're not here to, like maybe the person in the past borrowed $10 from you and forgot to repay you, which is a different story. But you're so upset, like you think of everything together, then you start yelling about the person, start talking about the person owing you money. It's not going to work, okay? You need to move your emotions away. You need to come in very clear. So the first thing is that you need to think of a mindset. And the mindset is that you want to reach a desirable outcome. Okay? So the first part of giving the feedback is to ask. You're not giving your feedback yet. You're not saying, hey, look, we're behind. I think you're slow. You need to work harder. Don't do that. First, ask. Ask 3 questions. First, understand their reason. Like, why are they behind? Ask, right? The second is ask to understand their motivations. Their motivations, like, what are you like? What are you looking to achieve in this project, right? Understand their motivations. Third is ask questions to get them to adapt to your method, right? You have a way that you think is better, but instead of telling them, you're going to ask them. Okay, so I'm going to walk through this one by one. And then you're getting a commitment, which is, so the first part is just understanding the situation. And then the second part is getting a commitment, is getting an outcome that you want, which is use their motivation to get a concrete commitment. Okay, then you offer help if needed, but you make your help conditional to their commitment. And then last part is have a firm plan B in case they don't agree to change. Okay, so let's go to this one by one. Again, here I just want to say that in coming in to the feedback, please remove all your emotions. Why? Because everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. So be kind. You don't know why they're late. You don't know why, they haven't done the work. Maybe they have some really special reasons. So let's just be kind to them and listen first and ask first. Okay, so giving feedback, the first thing is understanding reasons. So this is what I would say. So about the school project, we are running behind schedule, right? It's a fact. When I'm not attacking the person, I'm not saying you're slow, you're lazy. I'm just giving a fact, right? We're running behind schedule. This project is also really important to me, right? So I'm explaining that this is really important to me. I would love to hear your plans for completing it. Right, so you're asking them for a reason, right? Essentially, like, so in when they share their plans, they're also gonna share like why they're behind. And normally they would say, maybe like, oh, I'm sick, or like I have some family issues, or I'm overload, or this class is not important to me, whatever. Just listen to the reasons, right? And then the second thing is, after you understand the reason, you want to understand their motivation. So the question I would ask next is like, okay, so you signed up for this class, right? So what are you hoping to achieve by completing this project? Right? Because they signed up for the class, they chose to be in the class, so there must be a motivation. And the motivation could be like, oh, you know what, I actually really love fashion, and I've always want to know what people what the latest trends are, what people like. So that's my motivation for completing this project. So you have to look at it from their angle, not your angle. Don't come in and like just throw things at them and like say, like you need to see it my way. You need to see it their way. Okay? So the next thing you want to say is ask questions to get them to adopt to your method. So this is really key. So like, for example, let me give you this. Okay? So they're in charge of the fashion class, right? So they're in charge of getting users' feedback. So the method that they're doing is that they're emailing all their friends and asking for feedback. Oh, so what new clothes do you like? Okay, so you think that that's very slow because people don't respond to email. So you think that, oh, maybe if you just call these people, be faster than email them. So that's what you think, right? So but instead of like telling them that, instead of saying, hey, let's start calling them, you want to ask them a question so that you can hear the answer and so that they think it's their idea, not yours. Okay, so this part, what I would do is I would say, I know that you're gathering users' feedback by sending out emails to your friends. Do you think if calling some of your friends directly, we can get answers faster? Are you asking a question? And so, and it's essentially, but it's your idea, but you're putting in questions so that we can ask them. Okay, so then normally they would say, oh yeah, probably calling is a better idea. Okay, so the next part is that you want to use motivation to get a concrete commitment. So now that you understand why they're behind, let's just say they're behind because they were sick for the past 2 weeks or something like that, and they still want to complete the project because they love fashions and they want to know the latest trend, and they're okay with like calling people. So let's use their own motivation to get a concrete commitment, but the commitment is coming from them and not from you. They need to agree, they need to suggest it, and they need to like totally on board with it. Because if you push them too hard, right, they say yes, 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 but they're not going to do anything. Trust me. Okay, so in this case, I would say that since you enjoy learning about the latest trends in fashion, it is clear that you also want to do well in this project. Given that we're behind schedule, what steps do you think we can do to catch up so we can finish in the next 3 days, right? So I'm giving them a deadline, which is 3 days. Maybe the deadline, it's like a week, but let's move it down to 3 days, right? So I'm asking them for their commitment, but What steps do you think we can do together? Not you can do, but we can do together to catch up, and we can finish in the next few days. Right? So they are going to give you a plan. Right? You don't suggest a plan, because if you suggest it, then it's only you pushing it, and and then maybe it won't go through. If they suggest it, then they have ownership over it, and it's much more likely that they will take it. Right? So in this case, I would say like this, and and then they may say, okay, well, I think what I'll do is maybe tonight I will start calling my friends. I'll give you an answer by tomorrow. How's that? Right? So at least you have a commitment. And then the number 5 is offer help if needed. Like if you think they need help, you can offer help, but you need to make your help conditional to the commitment. So don't be too eager. Don't come in and just say, oh, let me help you with everything, right? They need to do some work. After you see that they do some work, then you help them with the rest. But if you're too eager to help them with everything, they might just say, okay, yeah, I will let you do everything. So in this case, what I would say is that I'm also super busy, but happy to share the workload with you. Since you're going to call your friends for feedback, after you call 5 friends, and if you run out of time, let me know. I can help you call 2 friends for you. Shall we do it tonight? Okay? So here, you let them call the 5 friends first, and then if they're out of time, then you help them. So it's conditional on their work. Okay? The next one is have a firm plan B in case they don't agree to change. But sometimes you talk to them and then they don't want to change. They're like, this project's not important to me. I don't care about it. You're on your own, right? You need to have plan B. So then what you want to say is this. Okay, since you don't want to do this project, right? I've already talked to you for the past 30 minutes and you don't want to do this project. I need to do this in order to pass the class, right? It's a fact. I will go ahead and ask the professor to reassign a new team for me. No hard feelings for me, and I hope you understand. Yeah. If there's anything you can do to help, let me know. So at least you are moving on, but in a very polite and respectful way. So no hard feelings. Okay. So that's actually all for this part. I'm gonna come back to you guys, and I'm gonna open it up to discussion. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I'd love to hear your thoughts about, and this is a very tricky situation, right? Because you essentially are working with somebody who's not cooperative. They don't want to work with you. So the trick is, how are you going to be able to talk to them? And here, let me invite one more person because he wants it. Okay. So yeah, so the trick is, how would you be able to do this? So any questions for my framework? Or do you have any real life situation where you're working with someone and they don't really want to work with you, or they're giving you a hard time?
I think I have that pretty often because most of my class are team-based. So we do all of the project every week in teams, and then we always have someone that somehow didn't follow the whole process of the team. I think in those situations, I I did the listening part pretty well, and most of the time maybe we don't even need to add that team member, but we know, for example, he's an athlete, so we all know that he was super busy with his schedule and such, and he didn't really care about the class. But I think we often flex our plan on him, like to say that, hey, based on our team contract, we have to do this and that, and if you fail to do that like 1 or 2 twice, then we will do this and that, instead of making him saying that out loud by himself. So maybe that is something very new to me.
Yeah, very good. I'm so glad you pick up on the difference. And at this age, you're so young, And at this age, you're already picking it up. It's really good for you. Because trust me, for the rest of your career, sorry, I'm in Manila today. In the Philippines, it's so hot. And I don't dare to turn on the AC because the noise is, you're not going to be able to hear me. So I have to sit here and it's really hot. But just back to that point, it is so important, right? So remember our framework, right? Here, let me just pull our framework up because it is so important to talk about that. And I'm especially for Wang since he just joined.
Yep. Bye.
Hello, Em. Oops. All right. So I'm going back to our framework, which is this framework here, right? So what you normally do when somebody like work in a team, right, and they don't listen to you, right, or they're falling behind a lot of time, even your colleagues, doesn't have to be your classmate. A lot of time you're just focusing on this part here, which is essentially you're going in and pushing them, right? You'll be saying like, oh, look, we're behind schedule. I need you to finish this by the next 2 days. It's so your job. Right? The professor gives you this job. The boss gives you this job. It's your job. You need to do it, right? That's what we always do. And that, look, they already know that, right? They already know that this job. You saying that doesn't really help the situation. You really need to ask. So first of all, but let me go back to the mindset. You need to like really come in with no emotions. You're not here to be angry. If you're angry, it's not gonna help, right? So going with no emotions, then you ask first. You ask reasons, you ask motivations, and then you ask for them to do a different way based on what you think is a better way. You suggest to them new things. Then you ask for their commitment. And this part here, Maya, I'm so glad that you pick it up. You don't want to suggest commitment to them. You don't want to say, okay, if like let's work together on this. Like you give them the whole plan. You don't want to do that. You want them to suggest a plan. Okay? Because when they suggest a plan, they have ownership over it. Right? So like for example, if just think of a very simple example back when we were young, our father come in and say, oh, I want you to clean your room, right? And I wanted you to clean and move everything away and put it XYZ, like he gives you everything and then he walk back an hour later, nothing's done. Right? But if he asks you and he get a specific commitment from you, he asks you, okay, when is this going to be done? What are you going to do first? And you be like, yeah, then you have room to negotiate, you have room to suggest something that you want. So then you can come together. So this part is actually extremely important, and I'm really glad that you are that you are going forward versus just suggesting something. I think somebody was typing in something. Let me see. So does anybody else has any questions?
What if the people you work with is very lazy, but he still want to get good mark from the group? So that when you say okay, when you tell them what to do, blah 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 blah, and then okay, they agree with all the things you tell. But then when they start to do the job, they do it not with their heart. Just they do it just like in 1 hour, 2 hour, and they send it to you. So what can we do in that situation? Sometimes I meet that kind of person. We spend a lot of time to hear what they want, but then they okay, and can come back to do the bad job.
Okay, it's a great question.
Yeah, that's actually something can really happen in real work, especially to the yeah. I have the experience.
Yeah, it's a great question, Em, and I'm so glad you asked. Okay, so what do you do when you're working with somebody who actually, they're quite kind of lazy and they just want to do the minimal thing to get by and dump the rest on you.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that case, okay, the first thing is this: if in the future you can avoid them by any means. Okay, so that's the best thing to do. Like if you see them for a new project, run the other way, right? Or find that would be the best, because when you work with somebody like that, you also like get emotionally, not inspired. You just feel tired.
Yeah.
So if you have a choice, Do whatever you can to avoid. Okay, that's the first thing. Now, let's just say you don't have a choice. You have to work with them. Okay. In this case, I actually work with them very early on in the project, and I would communicate very clearly my responsibility and their responsibility, and get their commitment. And even if they're not like really happy about it, but like have an honest discussion, and like don't try to push too much on them, and just see what they can commit, and get them to fix that commitment, and also fix consequences if they don't meet that commitment. Okay, so like let me give you an example, right? So back to like the case that we're talking about, like working with like the fashion designer, and they're supposed to go call some friends for you, and they said, you know, they would, and they give you like some really crappy result, or like they don't really do it, right? So then what would you do in that case? I have a rule where first time I'll forgive, the second time I'm not going to. And I'm going to communicate with them very early on. I say, look, you know, our time is very valuable. So, yeah, so if you need help, let me talk about, you also wanted to do this, because I asked them questions about their motivations. I asked them questions about all these things, so I know how to motivate them. And they still don't do it. But in my first discussion with them, I'm going to lay that out very clear. I'm going to say, look, you know, as you know, I'm also like really busy, and going forward, I only have this much time to do for this project. So, you know, if you can call 5 people by tonight, then tomorrow we're going to do this. But if you're not able to call these 5 people by tonight, tomorrow, you know, I don't want to, but I do want to finish this project, right? So then that would leave me no choice but to essentially find a different partner. So I will communicate that upfront to them, and it's up to them. Right? I will communicate the consequences very upfront, very early on, have an open discussion with them. Because a lot of times we're really shy. We are just ask them, oh, can you please like do it by tonight? And they say, okay, and then tomorrow, nothing. And then we come back and say, can you please again? No. I would get a commitment upfront, and I will explain the consequences. Because it's fair for both sides. I would say, look, you know, I need this by tomorrow so that I can do my work. If you don't have it tomorrow, I cannot do my work, because my work depends on your work. So if by tomorrow I don't have it, then I have to find a different way. I hope you understand that. Yeah?
Okay.
So
on that same topic, some situations the teammates like they try a lot and they commit to it, but the results not very good. So how, and you cannot just redo their work or help them every time. So how would you deal with that?
why isn't the result good? Is this person like is not you know, just not well trained? Why is the result not good?
For example, in our class project, like that teammates really spend a lot of time working on the project. But for example, if we're working on a business case and they just didn't see the case and didn't see how to apply it, so they try a lot and they wanted to do it well, but the results that they hand in our project just, you know, like the quality is not good. And of course because they already tried, so we cannot, you know, like blame them for doing it wrong or things like that.
Let me ask you, do you see a different way for them to improve?
Maybe work on the process with them.
Yeah. So here, it comes down to, remember what I go back to in a very fragile relationship. If you like this person, if you think this person needs the help, and if you can help them, I would suggest you help the person. It takes a bit more of your time, but in the long term, you will win a new friend for the rest of your life, because they'll be grateful for you that you helped them, right? That you were there when they needed somebody the most. they'll be happy and grateful for that. You will win a new friends in the long term. If if you see a way to help them. And also, let me say this: the best way to learn something is to teach something. Yeah, the best way to learn a material is by teaching that material. So if you can teach this person, you actually will learn a lot more about the topic. Right, so then instead of like getting an A, you might get an A plus actually, or you might understand the material even better. So it's in your benefit. So it comes down to if you want to help or not. And because clearly, right, you understand how to do it better. Like say, on a scale of 1 to 10, they're at a 5, and they really struggle. You are at like an 8. You see the gap. You see where they struggle. Then you can come in and you can help them. And you can suggest it and break it down for them. And you can also even like give them maybe even a different way of thinking, or give them even a different part of the project, something more fitting for them. Right? Because maybe when you give them it's too complex, can you reassign, give them something less complex, and you take on more complex part, right? Or can you teach them to understand the material? So it really comes down to you. But in this case, right, it's not a case of attitude. They have good attitude, which is good. I love working with people with good attitude. Maybe they're a bit like slower, but at least they have good attitude. Right? The worst part is working with somebody who has bad attitude. It's the worst problem, right? So in this case, I would suggest you early on determine if they have good attitude, they really want to learn, and it's if you could help them, just help them. But help them early on so that you have time to fix, like not happen the night before and then nothing's gonna happen. Right? So it's an art of also seeing like how much help they need. So in the very early on, like when you reassign out the project, right? You might not know that they need help until the last day, and you can't give them any help. But if like after you plan out the project, like you have a meeting the next day or the day after that, just to go over, okay, do you really understand this? Do you not understand this? Right? Which part do you understand? How can we help each other? Right? The brainstorming part is really, really, really important. And so do that early. Yeah.
And before we start giving this feedback, should we talk to the rest of the team first, or you work with that person first and then bring it to the team?
Well, normally what I would do is I would have an entire team feedback first to understand each other's strengths and each other's weaknesses and understand each other's working style. Okay? Because maybe when you meet in a team, you realize that, the assignment, the way that it's assigned doesn't fit each other's strength. Right? Or maybe you find out that, this person is low, but this other person really understand it. So maybe you're not the right coach, but this other person is the right coach. Right? So I would say the first thing I would do is I would have that assessment. I would bring the team together. I would kind of like go over and understand, what, are we happy with our assignment? Do we think we can do it? And have an honest discussion, like where do you think you will struggle, right? And what is your working style? Like, do you prefer to do it early on, or you procrastinated to do it last minute? Because if you give a procrastinator a job that needs to be done up front, the rest of the team has to wait for that person to do it first, then they can do it. It's too late. But you want to give the procrastinator the product at the very end, right? So you have time. It's about time management as well. So I would say you work with the team on this. But so what I'm teaching you right now is actually called leadership skill, right? Having the ability to watch a group, to see how to interact, to see each other's weaknesses, to motivate, to inspire, to plan. These are all not what you learn in school, not the technical stuff. These are leadership skills. So, I'm not trying to say that you automatically vote yourself the leader. I'm saying that you see where the gaps are and make the team look better. Okay?
So if you're not a team leader, like you're not the maybe when you are at a class project, the team leader and the team members positions get close. But if you are at work and you're working with your supervisors or your boss, and you want to give them this kind of feedback, will that be the same? Because now you are talking to someone above you.
Yes, Sam, that's a fantastic question. And the answer is just follow my framework again, right? Do it in private. You can give your supervisor some, you can give your supervisor some feedback, no problem. I mean, that's, we don't really live 200-300 years ago under a dictator anymore. You can give your supervisor feedback. But in that case, right, you need to be really crystal clear of the outcome and why your method is more superior than the current method, right? And then again, like ask questions so that they think is their solution, right? So that's what I would suggest. And yeah, you still need to do it because that essentially is taking be proactive. If something is wrong and you see it's wrong, you need to speak up. You need to help. Yeah. So when I'm talking in and out, you have any questions?
No, I think that is very useful. I can say for sure that I mean, all of my questions seems to be related to the business school and like school context, but I can assure you that it's still something happens in companies as well, and it happens all over the levels. So it's actually very useful question to ask. And my takeaway from the past 15 minutes I joined is that help actually you have to spend the time, and it's not easy thing to do, especially when your work is bloody stressful. But you need to spend the time to coach the person if you want some help, some useful help from them, and that is actually something I'm going to start doing now. Unfortunately, I didn't do it well before, and yeah, I think that is something very helpful.
Yeah. So that's actually something extremely helpful that you share. Thank you so much, and I completely agree because right now, let me give you another real life example. I work in a sales company, right? Someone in the sales team didn't meet the target, didn't meet the number, right? So the sales boss came by and said things like, this is very common, it happens everywhere. So what's normally a sales boss would come by and say, look, you didn't hit your number, right? This is going to be bad for the team. This is, you're not going to get a promotion in the long term. You might even get fired, right? So he's repeating things that I already know. Right, nothing new, right? I mean, I'm in sales. Like, say for example, I'm in sales. The boss come by and say, "Lily, you're not hitting the number. You're not gonna get your commission. Hurting the team. You're gonna get fired." Right, all things that I know already. Right, he's telling me this isn't okay. What, right? So he's not actually taking the time to understand why I'm not hitting my number. He's not offering any help. He's not like using my motivation. He doesn't know why I joined the sales team in the first place. So if he knows that like I joined the sales team because I love the product, because I want to help my clients, because I want to help the team, right? Then he can motivate me instead of like saying the same thing. So like in this case, he can motivate me. He can say, hey Lily, I know that you really appreciate working with your team member. You want the team to do well. I know that you love working with your client and you want your clients to do well. And I know you're struggling a little bit right now, right, with your numbers. Is there anything I can help? Right? So that is a lot more inspiring than like telling me things I already know, right? Like somebody in your team doesn't perform, you just come by, you need to do this by today, right? You already know that. That doesn't help anything, right? So you need to approach it from their angle, from their motivation. You need to understand and offer some help. But the help needs to be conditional on their part. Yeah? So I know that today we're scheduled to talk a little bit more about like handling rejections, which is so important, and giving rejections and how to how to say yes It's actually another really important topic. I'm happy to talk about it. I don't have any formal thing typed up yet because actually it's quite a detailed discussion. But let's just open it up. Um, I want to learn from you guys. So are you so currently facing any rejections, or do you want to give some rejections to people?
I'm receiving a lot of rejections because I'm applying for jobs.
That's okay. It's part of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, like, how? Tell me, how did you handle rejection?
Well, I think in our Facebook group, the email that I paste in is actually on the email that I sent to the recruiter when I received their rejections. So it actually depends, because in some case the recruiters really spend time to work with me in the process before that, and I can see that they pay attention to individuals. So I have also have some kind of individual impression about them. So when I write the response to rejection email, I try to. I'm very grateful for that because not every recruiter pay attention to the applicants. So I try to express my gratitude about how they spend time with me, and throughout discussion, we talk about the company and the industries and the opportunities in these industries, for examples, and that's really helped me. So I try to talk about what we talked about before that. We talked in our discussion before that, and then I try to ask for feedback if they can give me any feedback to make me to improve my resume or my interviews skills. Um, and Lastly, that's the new thing I just add in after looking on the internet on how to respond to rejection emails. That that kind of to say something like please keep me in your files when you have some similar opportunities that fit my qualifications, and I would love to hear from you. So to end the email with that, and not every recruiter respond like again, but some of them really get me good feedback to improve my resumes, and I think that worth like trying to write a good response to rejection email.
Okay, fantastic. I'm happy to share, but I want to hear from the rest. Like, just in general, how do you deal with rejection? Doesn't have to be about a job or anything. How do you deal with rejection?
I think first we have to find out the reason why we are rejected, and then maybe give some solution. Maybe show that you are very interested. You really want to do that. To show the person that okay, I have a desire. I really want to do that, and I am willing to change upon what I'm wrong. I think so.
Okay, great. What about you, Wang? How do you normally deal with any rejection?
Well, there's always the interior factor and exterior factors, right? If I'm rejected, like the author said, you have to understand the reason why, and if it's the exterior factor, then frankly, there's nothing much you can do about it. They are bad. They are just bad. But if the interior factor, then I'll try to work on it. Like for example, if it's a job, then if it's some skill that I don't have yet, I'll develop it. That skill. That and actually that's what I'm doing right now, and it's a constant effort of learning and improving for improvement. So actually, the rejection for me is one of the very good thing to happen to me. What I just don't like it is when the HR or the exterior factor, where the HR is being lazy or just being stupid or just being just just being not helpful, and that's all. But that is nothing you can do, frankly. So it's a blessing. It's a blessing. It helped me to improve myself.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that note, I just want to share that it's like this. First of all, the first thing you need to deal with rejection is that you need to deal with yourself. Not anything else but yourself. Okay? You need to understand that our mind, and this science has shown this, our minds, our brains, they don't like rejection because you feel attacked, right? So actually, science have shown that when you get like a slap, if somebody slaps you on the face, part of your brains get like light up because it's hurt, right? And when you get a rejection, even though it's a verbal rejection, nobody's like kicking you and punching you and hurting you, you still feel attacked because it's your sense of identity is who you are. You offer them something and they don't want it. So you as a person feel a sense of, it's not a good feeling. You feel attacked. You feel rejected. You feel unwanted. So first of all, you need to deal with yourself first. Okay? So this part is really important. You need to manage your own psychology before you manage anything else. So how do you manage your own psychology? Okay? First, I would suggest that you be really sincere and you have multiple options. Multiple options here means that, maybe you want to narrow down what you're passionate in life. Maybe the top 3 companies, the top 3 industry you really want to apply to, the top 3 positions, the top 3 something that you really want to work toward. Is to have some options open. Then you really put your heart into working toward that. Right? So like if you really want to be in e-commerce, you read e-commerce news every day. You talk to all the people, your alumni that have gone to work, you call them, you ask for coffee, you read books on e-commerce, you're really passionate about it. You have to show that you're passionate. Okay, so spend a lot of time on that first, because once you build up that knowledge, Mike, can you speak yourself a little bit? I think it's a little bit distracting. Put yourself on mute for a second. Because once you put yourself, build a firm foundation, right? Say it's like it's e-commerce you're passionate about. You build a firm foundation on e-commerce, then even if they rejected you, you have that confidence in your heart. You know you can get the job at the next one. Right? Does that make sense? So first you need to build up your confidence. You need to know who you are. You need to pursue your passion first. So your passion is like, in like I said, logistics or something like that. And you spent the past 6 months, a year reading, learning, growing on this part. If this job doesn't come along, that's fine, because another job will come anyway. Right? Because you know that this is what you want to do and you have dedicated so much time with it. So first you manage your own psychology. Right? Because when you don't do that, you just apply because, Amazon is a nice big name. I don't know any other company. I'm just going to apply. Oh, such a fancy name. I hope I get it. I hope I get it. And you actually don't even know why you like Amazon. You don't know anything about the company, but you just know it's a fancy name. I hope I get it. I hope I get it. And then the recruiter call and say, oh, no, you didn't get it. And you feel kind of like desperate and feel sad. And you're like, and then you can't say anything in that moment. You just feel like, So first, you manage your own psychology. You build up a sense of confidence. This is really important, right? With that confidence, you can do anything. So that's the first part. Build that up. Then the next thing you need to understand is that, like Juan said, they are the things that you can control, and they're the things you cannot control. So things you can control are like, okay, I need to read more about, e-commerce. I need to learn some more skills specifically to e-commerce, online ads or something like that. Things that you can control. Things that are outside your control, as in like, you know what? The company just hired somebody internally. The company just canceled the position. The company doesn't have any more budget for this. The company decided to open this position in Thailand instead of Singapore. There are many external reasons, things that you cannot control. Outside your control, don't worry about it, move on. Right? So you need to understand the things you can control and the things you cannot control when you're talking to somebody. And if they're giving you like the feedback, you need to be very calm and very respectful and say something like this. I understand that you know, that a lot of people apply for this position. So naturally, a lot of people, only one person get it, and so a lot of people don't get it, and everybody asks for feedback. I know, you know, your time is very valuable, but you know, actually, I've been researching about this company for the past 6 months. I know your vision is X, Y, and Z, and as such, you know, I would like to work with the company. So you show that you've actually done the work already, and you know, I'd love to hear some of your feedback so that I play the long-term game. You tell them to play the long-term game. You say you're perfectly okay now that they don't hire you, because like e-commerce is my passion anyway. I've already spent the past year studying for this. I can wait another year, no problem, right? If this is your passion, this is what you want to do, you're going to do it anyway. So just tell them, you know what, I play the long-term game. I understand this position is not a good fit right now, and I understand that, you know, everybody asks for feedback, but I actually study a lot for this. I prepare a lot for this interview for the past 6 months. And if there's anything you can help me with, so that 6 months from now I can be a better candidate, I would love to hear it. Right? So you ask me for feedback, but you're showing that you've done the homework. And when you talk to me like this, right, you don't see any desperation from me. You don't see me crying. You don't see me, right? You only see confidence. So that's actually the really important part. Okay? But also remember that the HR, right? Because like when you get interviewed, you get interviewed by the hiring manager and then by the HR. But the hiring manager is the one that makes the decision. But the hiring manager sometimes doesn't tell the HR why the hiring manager doesn't want you. She just might say, oh, it's not a good person to take. But she didn't say anything. Then the HR doesn't have any feedback to give to you because she doesn't know. So you have to be really aware of this as well. You know, so but I think coming back, you just need to, in terms of like handling with rejection, you need to first understand that a mental rejection, our brain hurts really badly. Like mine hurts as well. Like I just feel really bad. But the way to go out of that is to make sure you know who you are. Make sure that you're really confident about your skills, and you really focus. And something's gonna happen anyway. Any questions? No questions. Okay, well, on that note, if you don't have any more questions, you know, then we'll end here. The next topic I'm going to talk about, the next class, I think it's going to be about time management. Because people also ask me, like, they only have 24 hours in a day, I only have 24 hours in a day, how come it seems like I can do more than they can? It's actually not necessarily true, but I will share with you some advice on time management for the next class. Yeah, and you know, in the meantime, if you have any questions at all or any specific case, you just ping me. I'm happy to answer for you. Yeah.
Yes.
So we
Thank
you.
you so much.
Bye
Did you
bye.
talk about the case
Bye.
how to say yes and no?
Yes, Maya, you have a question?
When you talk about the case, the rest of the case that we have on our Facebook group, like how to say yes and how to say no.
Yeah. So for that, I think I'm also going to run a separate discussion for that because how to get in there is quite long. But let me give you the short answer, if there's a short answer. Okay, so how to say yes? Short answer is this. So say you're working in a company or you're working at your school, right? And your boss come by and said, I'm going to give you a new assignment. It's very urgent. You need to do it in this week. But this week you have 3 other assignments to do. So, but it's your boss. But if you take on a fourth one, you know everything is going to be bad because you don't have enough time. Because the other 3 is also really important, right? So how do you say yes? Or how do you say no, right? You can't really say yes, okay, you really say no, you're kind of stuck, right? In this case, let me ask you, what do you do?
So that just is actually not a just right? Like when you want to say yes to that project.
So you would do it. Is that what you said, Mai?
I mean, because when when you explain the case, I see that more of how to say no situations.
Mm, okay.
So
So it's
is that like
open-ended.
a
What
way
would
to?
you do? So the question for me to ask you is, what would you do? Let's ask this you. You're working, your boss come by and say, I have another project for you. It's really important, need it done now. You have 3 other projects. You can't do everything. What do you do? Yes or no? What would you say?
Mm, I think ask about like the priority of that job to see if that's more important than the three projects that I can work on. And if that's the case, then it also depends on my negotiation power with the supervisor of the other three projects. But the upfront, if we know the priority of all of them, then we can coordinate our schedule to see what we should focus on first, and maybe then we can think of other options like asking for help from other teammates or maybe extend deadline on other projects.
Great. That's a great question. That's a great answer. Does anybody else want to add anything to that?
Maybe at first I will show him that I really want to work on that project, but and then I tell him my situation that I currently have 3 big projects like as big as yours. So if I work on it, I'm afraid that I cannot work good on those 4 projects. So can we postpone? Can you show me I mean the deadline like Mai said, that we can arrange the work? Something like that. We will not say yes or no, but we spread our want to work on the project, and then we show our difficulty, and then we like, okay, I really want to work with it. I will arrange something like that.
Okay. You want anything else to add to the 2 lovely ladies?
No. I think it's, what we said is right. Maybe a slight thing is that um, if it's your boss and you communicate it first with him, what is your priorities are. If it's really a must to do, then let. Wow. Okay, hold on. Give me a moment. If it's sorry. Okay. So backtrack. I would. So like we say, I would explain what is on my menu right now, and if it's something that the boss really want to get it done, then I'll discuss with him. So what kind of deadline are we gonna work on, and if it's there's nothing can be done, then the answer is straight no, because I will say no if if the new project is gonna harm my current project and it's gonna make me lose my credibility, my reputation. If I can, and in the end, I screw up everything. So that would be a straight no.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, all very good answers. The way to explain is like this, right? So if somebody come by, and this is actually written in Stephen Covey's book, the 7 Successful Habits of people. So I would say it's very simple. When the boss first come in, you would tell him that you understand that it's an important project, and you would show him that you have 3 other projects, and you would show him like kind of like a board or draw it on paper. These are the projects. These are the deadlines. These are the consequences. You don't meet this deadline for the other 3 projects, right? There are consequences. Now, ask him for his input, right? You would like me to take this project? I'm happy to do so. These are the extra projects. Each one required 20 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours. This one's going to require another 20 hours. We need to fix it in somewhere in the schedule. Can you let me know where in the schedule you think is best to fit it in? Because he's your boss. right? So you're giving him the power to decide. Then he has to kind of scratch his head. Then he has to think about it. Then it's up to him, essentially, to decide. And if he decides to drop one of the project, because there's no way you can fit it all in 1 week, right? If you're gonna push this in, you're gonna push something down. But that is his choice, not yours. Because he's the boss, he's gonna take ownership for it. He's gonna have to go to explain to the other supervisor why this got dropped, and it's not you. Right?
Yeah, it's something called upward management.
Yeah. Exactly, right? So, but you have to be very clear. The reason, the only thing I want to tell you here is that you have to be super clear and firm. Don't just say yes. Nobody says say yes, right? But give him a clear understanding, right? This one is due by this day. This one is due. Just draw it out. Literally, sit down. You have 5 minutes. Sit down. Draw it on the board for him, and then draw out the consequences. How this is going to affect, because you need to let him know all the facts so that he can decide. Right? So you need to give them all the facts. So this is actually really important, and that's how I would say yes or say no. Is I would negotiate with the person, and then and then at the same time though, like if he does push this onto you, then you at least have some terms to work with, like terms as in like, okay, I'm going to push this other project away or whatnot, right? So just agreeing on those details is really important. Or maybe the project that he gave to you, maybe would do half first, and the other half, would do next week. Right? There's many options, but you need to kind of like negotiate with him. This is your job. Yeah. So I think that's on how to say yes. Essentially, it's a different way of saying yes. How to say no. Okay, you need to learn this very early on, because so let me talk more about this in my next class on time management, because the art of saying no ties in with the art of time management, right? How do you say no so that, because you know your priorities and you know you cannot fit everything in, you're actually doing a disservice to yourself by taking on too much. You're doing a disservice to other people because the quality of the work is going to be poor. Right? So how are you going to be able to say no? Will really come down to you know yourself and you know your priorities and you know what needs to be done. Yeah, and you need to be really firm with that. Vietnamese people were taught to say yes to everything, right? So saying no is really important. And once you learn how to say no, you will understand why other people say no to you, and you don't get hurt so much, right? You need to put yourself on the other side of the coin. And then you will definitely understand. You understand the limitations. It's not because they want to say no to you, but there are limitations. And on that note, so I'm going to mention something else, but I forgot. So let me tie that in with the next class. Yeah, go enjoy the beautiful day, and and then and if you have any feedback, about this class, please type it in Facebook directly so that other students can learn. Yeah, and I can learn as well.
Oh, when you publish your slideshow of your PowerPoint?
Yeah, I will publish it then.
Cool.
Okay. Yes.
Alrighty, thank you, team. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.